Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, known for the Ode to Joy, is one of the most cherished works of classical music. It might surprise you to learn that Beethoven hadn't written a symphony for 10 years when he began what would be his final work. The reason is that Beethoven had an extremely difficult personal life. At the beginning of his career, when Beethoven was still a young man in his 20s, he realized he was losing his hearing. By the time Beethoven achieved great success as a composer, he had already become completely deaf. He was still able to write music because he heard the ideas in his head, and he knew how to write them on paper. But life was much more difficult for people with disabilities in the 19th century, and Beethoven had a hard time holding on to family and friends. As lonely as he was, Beethoven believed that people should connect with one another as one great big family, and everyone in that family has a chance to feel joy. His Ode to Joy is a simple melody. Beethoven deliberately wrote a tune that people would find catchy. As simple as this melody is, we know by now that Beethoven never did anything small. He always found a way to make things big. With his Ninth Symphony, Beethoven had a bold idea to add a new instrument to the orchestra. He added the human voice. Singers had never performed as an instrument in the blend of a full orchestra before, but Beethoven was determined to make his idea work. Beethoven intended for this work to be heard years after his death. The music itself sounds important. Let's listen to the opening of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. In these opening bars, it sounds as if the music could be arriving from far, far away. It sounds as though the music has traveled a great distance to arrive on the scene, or as though the music hasn't been written yet and the instruments themselves are finding those opening notes. It was a bold approach, and Beethoven was so bold that he used it again right away. Close your eyes and listen to the music emerge from the darkness. Whenever you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes again. The Ninth Symphony was extremely important to Beethoven for many reasons, but for one very special reason. Remember, he wrote the entire work after he had completely lost his hearing. Beethoven attended the premiere, the first night this work was performed for an audience. It was his first time on stage in 12 years. He sat beside the conductor with his back to the audience so he could see the orchestra and watch how the musicians played the new work. Often during the performance, the audience burst into enthusiastic applause, but Beethoven didn't hear their excitement. During quieter sections, the audience sat hushed, paying close attention to the music. But Beethoven wasn't aware of their silence either. Finally, at the end of the performance, the audience rose to its feet and burst into thunderous applause. Beethoven was still facing the orchestra. One of the singers reached for his elbow and gently turned him around. He still could not hear the cheers from the audience, but he could see their smiling faces and clapping hands. When Beethoven saw the audience, he understood the great success of his work, and he burst into tears. Beethoven had found his own reason for joy.